want to let you know that we now have 22 branches, which represent 28 states. So we are really growing quickly. We have well over 3,000 members. I think if you are on this, you probably are a member. If you're not, we would encourage you to join. And as many of you know, we do open up our membership to all. You don't have to be a woman to join. So we really encourage men to join as well, to come support the whole effort that we have going on here. And normally I'd reserve these kind of announcements to the end, but in case we run right up to the very end with all the questions we have for Audrey today, just want to talk for a minute about Women of Asphalt Day, which will be happening next year. It's March 27th. It will be held in Nashville in conjunction with the World of Asphalt. So if you are receiving some of the updates from Women of Asphalt right now, you'll see more and more correspondence on that. But we're really excited about this effort. This will be our first time of really organizing a day for women at this event. We're working on the content now, but we'll have, industry experts there. We'll have a lot of networking. The programs, they're being worked out. You'll get more information on that. We're hoping to have some tours and some guided tours around the show, along with potentially some tours outside at other industry companies. So just keep your eye out for that. And I already talked to you about the chat function and what we're doing. So let's get into why we're all here today. We are here to introduce and learn more about Audrey Copeland. And Audrey is the current president and CEO of the National Asphalt Pavement Association. So very well known in our industry. And I know I've known Audrey for a long time, but there's an awful lot I don't know about Audrey. So I'm really looking forward to learn more about her and her career path today. She's been in this role of president and CEO of NAPA since 2019. And prior to that, she was NAPA's VP of Engineering, Research, and Technology. And in addition, she was also at one point in time a highway engineer and researcher at the FHWA. So right now, Audrey is the secretary of the Women of Asphalt Board. She's also on the board of directors at NCAT, which is the National Center for Asphalt Technology, and for TRIP, which is the National Transportation Research Nonprofit. She's a professional engineer, and I can't see Audrey on my screen. I know she's there, but I'm going to get right into asking her some questions. So Audrey, are you ready for this?
Hey, I'm ready. So,
all right. So I want to start out by talking a little bit about your career and your journey. So maybe could you share some of the pivotal experiences or decisions that you've made in your career that ultimately really led you to this role you're currently in as president and CEO of NAPA?
Yeah. So thank you, Sheila, and just excited to be with everyone today. And just real quick before we dive in case I forget to say it later, I think we are taking questions over in the chat box. So this is kind of my time with all of you out there, and Sheila's got a great list of questions, but if there's anything anyone else wants to know, feel free to type in a question. I was talking to Sheila yesterday, and for the most part, I'm an open book and happy to answer questions. So as I thought about this question, because some of them, some of the questions Sheila shared with me, I actually want to go all the way back to school, to like middle school, in terms of, a chain of events that got me to where I am today. And really, I guess what I'm getting at here is my path to becoming an engineer. And so in middle school, I don't know how it was for everybody else, but for us, in fourth grade, you tested for whatever reading and math you were going to be at in middle school. Well, I tested out very low in everything. And so I was put into the lowest classes, and I figured that out pretty fast once I got into middle school and realized that's not where I wanted to be. So I think kind of realizing that and enjoying school was what led me to embrace like math and science, and led me on the path that eventually allowed me to be an engineer. And I think being an engineer is an important component of what I do and what NAPA values. So that's why I'm talking about that. And then I was blessed to have a teacher who believed in me. So even though I quickly started moving up and really applying myself in school, and it also helped that I enjoy school. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that do not enjoy school, but I liked it. I had a teacher who believed in me and who gave me the opportunity to go up into the higher level math classes. And I really struggled, but thankfully I had teachers who were supporting me and seeing the hard work I was putting in. And so I guess that takeaway there that was leading me to a route to become an engineer is that, first of all, realizing that others can see things in you that you may not even see. And so having those teachers who really supported and believed in me and knew I could do it, even though I didn't know I could do it. And then also knowing that I could do hard things. And then as I went to school, I originally thought I was going to be a lawyer. And so I was just going to study pre-law. But thankfully, my dad, encouraged me to get a more practical degree. He was like, yeah, if you end up not going to law school, pre-law doesn't really help you much, right? So that combined with doing well in school in math and science and learning those things and then going to college, I chose engineering. So I highlight that because of the technical nature of what we do. And so having that skill set, I think, helped me to come into this role. And then the other thing I would say is that I worked for the government coming out of graduate school. I had a great government job being a highway engineer. And if you're in the DC area or maybe even in other areas, you know that the government is a pretty good gig. It's stable, pretty good pay. But I had an opportunity to move to NAPA. NAPA came and recruited me. And again, I had other people in my life who saw this opportunity and believed in me and encouraged me to embrace that role. And so I think making that career move was crucial in terms of having this opportunity, because at one point I thought I was just going to have my career at the government. So I think taking that leap and being able to take the risk and also knowing my value through that process helped me. And then finally, once I got to NAPA, a lot of it was learning to listen to others, probably listen more than you talk, and learn and be humble. And what else? How else? Can you give me some gas, honey? How else can I contribute? Things like that. And so being able to take on more responsibility really helped establish me to where I could take this role. And again, I had a great mentor in Mike Acott. Again, he believed in me. He saw the potential for me to take on this role. And I took advantage of those opportunities. He gave me opportunities to be in front of NAPA's board, to be in front of NAPA's executive committee, to travel internationally. And I was able to take advantage of those opportunities. So.
Awesome. I love some of what you said, about you got there and you spent a lot of time listening. I think that's really important. It's something people tend to overlook. They feel they need to talk and they need to, always be heard out there, talk, giving their opinion. When a lot of times we should be sitting back and listening and learning from others. So I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I love that the way you put that about middle school, Audrey. That they pushed you, that you saw you were in the low classes and decided this is not where I want to be.
Yeah. I mean, it really does kind of go back. My course going into kind of math and science really goes back that far. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. So how about some of the most significant challenges that you've encountered as a woman, as a leader and a woman in the asphalt industry? Maybe talk about what they were and how you might have overcome them.
Yeah. So first of all, I really have to say I've been lucky or blessed, or however you want to call it, that I really have not had too many significant challenges. Nothing like major. But what I guess I would say is some things that I think I grew from would be, first of all, people thinking that maybe they could walk over you. And not letting them, and it may not even be that they think they can walk over you. It may be that they just do something where you feel, that they disregarded you, but they don't even realize, and so I think for me, it was standing up for myself in those moments instead of internalizing it instead of going and talking to everyone else about it or lashing out about it, I would choose to go talk to that person and let them know, hey, this is how I feel, or this is what I perceived. And 9 times out of 10, that person had not even realized what they were doing, and they did not mean harm, you know? And so, for example, you know, I had an old boss, and I had sent him we were both presenting at a big conference with DOTs, a lot of DOT officials. And he was actually presenting before me, and then I presented. And I sent him my presentation ahead of time for him to look at, because he's my boss. Well, he ended up taking some of my slides. He thought they were so good that he took some of my slides and then just didn't tell me. So the next day, here he is up there presenting like probably a quarter of my presentation, and I didn't know. And obviously I had every right to be upset, right, and mad, and I was. But I gave myself time to calm down. And that night, after dinner, when we were all gathering at the bar, I was like, you know what, can I talk to you outside? You know? And I just talked to him privately and told him, hey, that wasn't cool, you know? And he totally accepted, totally apologized, you know? But I think if I had not said anything, he would have just been like, all right, I can just keep doing what I want to do, you know? And we have a great relationship to this day. I mean, we're friends to this day. But I guess what I'm trying to say is standing up for myself, but doing it in a in a private way or in a diplomatic way. And then I think, and this is probably more of an internal challenge for me, is so being in this industry where my experience has been with graduate school and then with the government and now with NAPA. So I have extensive experience like testing asphalt. You know, I've tested the crap out of asphalt. But I've never worked on a paving crew. I've never worked at a plant. I have never had to keep a plant running or, you know, make sure that a project gets paved at this. And so I do feel like that that understanding puts me at a little bit of a, you know, I just don't understand that. And I just have to tell myself, well, that's not the job you're doing now. You know, you're doing a different job. But I guess what I would say is one of the things that I have found that's helped me is to talk to others, to try to understand. And again, that goes back to the listening. Try to understand, what are your challenges? What are the significant challenges for you doing your job or for you being in this industry? And so learning from others has really helped me in that sense.
Yeah, that's great, Audrey. I mean, everyone has an important job to do. We can't all do all of the work, but understanding what people are up against in their role and showing empathy for people when they are struggling in their role, I think is key to being a good leader. And obviously you do some of those things.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like, just quit beating yourself up and understand you're in this role where that's not necessarily your objective, but you can definitely learn from others in terms of what they're facing and what they're doing, and how can what you learn from them apply to your role. So, yeah.
Oh, very good. Thanks for sharing that. How about any memorable experiences that you could share where you've successfully navigated gender-related challenges in your career?
So I guess, like I said, I've been really lucky that I haven't had to really navigate that. But I guess a couple things that come to mind, and I really wouldn't even, I don't know that I would classify them as gender-related challenges, but they could be. So number one, when I did join NAPA, and also when I was going for this position and negotiating for this position, I was encouraged to not negotiate. I was encouraged that, you know, NAPA has a culture of, let's bring you in, you know, see how things go for 6 months, and then we'll get you where you want to be. You know, so first of all, when I came to NAPA, I had a mentor who helped me know my value. Like, you know, don't take less than this, you know. And I was able to do that. But at the same time, I wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. You know, I was a little bit short of where I wanted to be. And so I was encouraged, you know, don't go into this initial negotiation process and turn it into a huge back and forth. Okay. And as women, we're told to advocate for ourselves. And so that was a little bit difficult because, and also I like to negotiate, I enjoy the back and forth, but I trusted the process and I trusted the person giving me this advice, and it has paid off. And NAPA has been very good to me. And so it's almost a bit of a culture of, we're going to bring you in, and if everything goes well and, there's success, then you get reward, they'll take you to where you want to be, and it has paid off. And so it was a little bit difficult to trust that process at first, but it has worked out well. And then the other thing I would just bring up is, there's been a couple of incidences where someone, whether it's a member or someone gets upset with us, or gets upset with me or something, or there's something that's bothering them. And there's probably been a couple times where I've had to ask myself, would they have talked to Mike Aycock this way? And I don't mean to bring his name up, but it's true. Like, would they have? And again, what I found is just going to the person, so just go to the person and say, hey, you know what, that didn't sit well with me, and a lot of times it's just them thinking that something that's really important to them in that moment, them thinking, oh, it's not important to Audrey because I'm not seeing, but it's also getting them to realize, hey, we're taking care of the whole nation. I have to prioritize what we're doing and just understand that there is a method to the madness. So anyways, I found that once I go to that person and I'm like, hey, not too aggressive, but just say, hey, this didn't sit well with me. They're always like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You're right. I should not have said that. I know you mean well, and it works out. So, but yeah, there's been a couple times where I'm like, hey, would they speak to Mike Aycock like this or some other senior, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, not letting things fester and I don't want to call it confronting people, but facing people in a way that you're not overly emotional. You said earlier, I sat back and I waited for a night, I thought about it. And then I went to the person the next day. Making sure that you can keep your emotions under control to have that conversation, I think, is so key. It just goes so much better.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think that really kind of comes full circle for everything. Is just, and especially now that I am in this position of CEO, oh my God, like how important communication is. Oh, like you cannot, what's the word I'm looking for? You cannot undermine or understress that enough, how important communication is at all levels, whether it's just communicating what's going on, so your organization is aware of things, or communicating that, hey, something's not right, or we need to talk about it. And probably a lot of what I do now is thinking around who needs to know this, who needs to know this, why do they need to know this, what do they need to know? So
Good advice. Okay, so how about on to balancing in your life, and what type of strategies do you have or have you found effective for balancing your career and your personal well-being?
Yeah, so for me, and I realize not everyone has this, but I do have an office job, okay, and this is something I got again from my dad. My dad was very good about leaving his work at home. My dad was an electrical engineer who also had an office job. And so his nights were with the family and his weekends were with the family. And so I have tried to adhere to that as much as I can. Sometimes some parts of the year, is more difficult than others. But I try to respect those certain times that I've cordoned off with my family, if possible. And then the other thing I would say is, and I'm going to go ahead. I kind of debated whether to say this or not. I think in terms of a sound mind, choosing those who are closest to you is really important in life. It's something I've learned. Life does not have to be that hard. It was not meant to be that hard. And so, choosing who I spend my time with and choosing those closest to me, I have learned to surround myself with good people. You just, life does not have to be that hard. You don't have to have the drama. And I will say that my husband, I got married later in life. in my late 30s, and obviously I was probably very picky. That's why I got married later in life. But I will say, choosing a husband who is a good person and who values me as a person and as a woman who has a career and respects that, I think there's no way I could do it otherwise, or be as effective as I could be. So I'm just so very grateful for my husband and the person he is. And I think that goes beyond to your friend network, and who you're spending your time with outside of work and things like that. So I will say, choose your people wisely and look for the good in people, So, and then finally, and I am still learning this, is prioritizing health. I've had different phases of my life where I prioritize my health better than others. And I'm going now, over the past year, I'm going from a phase where last year I was not doing well at this at all. And it had reached a kind of a pinnacle of, waking up with a sore back, waking up with a sore shoulder, just stuff issues. And so now I have really prioritized my health over the past year. And it's interesting. So some of you may know the person who was in the role of engineer before me at NAPA. That was Dave Newcomb. And his advice to me when I came into that role as the engineer was, you have to prioritize your health. No one else is going to do it. And it is crucial. And I kind of went through phases, at the first few years at NAPA, I did a good job of that. But then you get busy, you're traveling, things happen, and you reach a lull. And so what I want to say is, at some points in your life, you're going to have to give yourself grace, because there's going to be times where your plate is full. So for right now, I have a toddler at home, and I'm also running this association. So I have to give myself grace in terms of what I have time to do. But at the same time, when you can be focused on your health, take advantage of that. And I just saw where someone mentioned mammograms, and that is so important. Scheduling your health, your doctor visits, mammograms, things like that. Now with our generation, colon cancer is happening more often. So, I'm in my 40s now, so I'm going to have to start dealing with those checkups and all that. So anyways, I appreciate the person pointing that out. So that's important too. So let me just leave it there, because I talked a lot. If I think of anything else, I'll say it, but let me just leave it there.
All right. Well, no, that's all good. And, you're sitting here talking, and I'm sitting here, and Audrey knows this, but the rest of the crowd would not know this. I'm on a family vacation in a condo with a beach outside my window, watching my family on the beach while I'm sitting here. Now I'm feeling guilty. I was okay before, but now I'm guilty.
Right. I joked with Sheila that this should have been an on location webinar where I could have joined her today. We could have done it from the beach.
So I just want to follow up a little bit though, Audrey, and you can not answer whatever you don't want to answer, but I remember you were pregnant for your first child at the same time you were taking on this role at NAPA. And I'd just like to hear a little bit about how you navigated through that, and how that all went for you, because I think, for a lot of women, as they're planning out their families, and you can't always plan out your family, it's difficult at times to get it all done, to figure it all out.
Yeah. I don't know that I've ever spoken publicly about this. So the final interview for the CEO position was in the beginning of September of 2018. And after those interviews happened, I got a call that night that I was selected. So I kind of knew then. And that week, I think the next day, I took a pregnancy test and it was positive. You have that feeling, right? So then it's like, wow, okay, when do I start sharing this news? Things like that. And also I had gotten pregnant, I guess, probably 7 or 8 months before that, and had lost the baby, early on, after about 6 weeks. And so I was also nervous, that could happen again. So anyways, I talked through it with my husband, and I made the decision, I'm not going to mention this until I'm 12 weeks, till I know that this is most likely a viable pregnancy, and business as usual, right? So I made the decision to tell my boss at the time, again, was Mike Acott. I made the decision to tell him after Thanksgiving. And what I decided to do was, and I guess also in the back of my mind, what I should say is, I also had it in the back of my mind that if, let's say, NAPA did have a problem with this, or the industry had a problem with it, or the board or whatever, I kind of had to just reassure myself that would tell me more about them than it would tell me about me if they had a problem, like, so that would reveal something to me. But I also kind of knew in the back of my mind, I think this is going to be okay. Like I know these guys and they've been wonderful to me so far, and it's been a wonderful industry. So I think this is going to be fine. So anyways, so I told Mike around Thanksgiving, and then I brought him into the conversation of when we tell the board, when do we tell the leadership? And we decided together, like, let's tell them in person at the annual meeting. And it just, even though I had a little anxiety around it, it just went well. I mean, I think what was really telling to me was just, you don't know how happy people are for you until like you get married or you have a baby. Sometimes I feel like, and I mean, that probably is some reflection of our society or something. I'm not saying that, I'm not proposing that everybody has babies or something, but that was unexpected to me, of how happy everyone is for you and joyous, and it turned out fine. But I also think what was helpful is I had a plan in place. So when I went to the board that January, I had a plan in place of when I would go on maternity leave that summer. And it was very helpful because Mike Acott was willing to stay around and consult for a little bit. And I also was dealing with Mike, who's great, and I knew that he wasn't going to try to stay in power. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, he knew when it would be the right time for him to move on. So I was able to have a plan in place, along with Mike helping, along with the staff taking on roles. The staff was absolutely wonderful during that time. We even had new staff members on who were willing to help. So I think having that full network and everyone willing to step up, it all worked out very well. And then, of course, having my husband at home to help out too. So, and on the maternity leave issue, at that point, I don't think NAPA had any maternity leave, or you had to, take your own leave or whatever. So, I was able to implement the first maternity policy pretty much for myself, and also implement paternity leave as well. So, and now we're looking at even expanding our maternity and paternity leave policy. So.
We have certainly, as an industry, come a long way on that front. I know you and I have talked about that. And back from when I had my kids, or started having my kids, to now, it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Going from, we don't really have maternity leave, we don't know what to do, to now sharing that with paternity leave. It's just,
Did you
it's
pretty
awesome.
much just have to take your own time off? I mean,
no, they set up a leave policy, or similar to you. There were two pregnant people at the same time, and they set up a leave policy right then. But they really didn't know how to handle it because it was kind of new,
Yeah, I remember you talking about, though, they like sent you stuff at the hospital or something.
Yeah, they brought my mail to the hospital when I had my first child because they thought I might need it. Yep. But they really didn't know. It was not malicious. No, it's just,
of course, yeah.
We didn't know what to do, but we've come a long way. It's nice to see. So, hey, just to help people get to know a little bit about you as a person, Audrey, I'm just going to ask you a couple of these, what we'll call the lightning questions. Yeah. And tell us, how about, what was the first album you ever bought?
Michael Jackson, Thriller. So,
oh, good one. Yeah. Good one.
And I guess I should say my mom bought it for me because I was about 4 years old. But yeah, oh man, Michael Jackson, and I had actually picked it. We were at the mall or something, and I picked out the all instrumental version. I guess, these are back with the records, and they would make all instrumental versions, I guess, where you could sing to it yourself. And so my mom had to kind of direct me to the right one that had the singing. But yeah, Thriller will always, that whole album will always have a special place in my heart because it was my first. So
awesome. How about the last concert you've seen?
George Strait. So anyone that knows me on social media or whatever probably saw the pictures, but yeah, so I made a special trip to Nashville to catch George Strait on his, which may be his final tour. I don't know. He said that a few years ago. And it was the show that ended up, storms came in, so we only got to hear him for an hour. So I bought tickets and flew to Nashville to see George Strait sing for an hour. It was good. So.
Okay, well, how about we move on with some of our other questions, and let's talk about some of the leadership qualities that you would attribute to your success. And then maybe tied into how you would advise newer or aspiring leaders to develop some of these qualities.
Okay. So I'll go back in the beginning when I talked about technical knowledge. So I think always, being willing to learn and increase your knowledge, no matter what you're doing or what role you're in is very helpful. And I think also by honing sometimes those technical skills or even just professional development in general, it also really helps you with your problem solving skills. So really understanding and learning how to problem solve within teamwork, within being open to new ideas and new ways of doing things. I know like probably a lot of people on this call that are excelling in their roles and their jobs, you're probably kind of type A, you're go-getters, but not everything has to be done the way you think it should be done. Other people can get to that point and can succeed or do whatever needs to be done, but they may do it a different way. So allowing for that, allowing for different ways to get something done, and being willing to work hard. This industry is a fantastic industry, but it is an industry that requires hard work. And I think once you get into that habit of working hard and seeing the fruit of that, it's very rewarding. The other thing I would say is just being willing to take on responsibility. I know that there's a lot of talk now about, don't take notes or don't make the coffee. And I think to a certain extent, that's right. Like if you're to the point where you're being taken advantage of on that, you do need to be aware of it. But at the same time, you don't need to get so big for yourself where you're not willing to take on added things, so it's kind of finding that balance. Because really, it does come down to who's willing to get the work done. Being able to make decisions is crucial at this role. The buck stops with me. So I'm the one that has to make, decisions. And so gathering the needed info, the info you may need and things like that, but then being able to be decisive and not fret over it, is huge. And then finally, I go back to the whole listening to others, being humble, surrounding yourself with smart people, knowing that there's always something you can learn from another person. And so I think kind of wrapping that all up into something would be, as you're going through life and as you're going through your career, and take time to reflect, especially if there is some type of conflict or tension. Take time to say, what can I learn from this? What is the opportunity? Instead of dwelling on bad or whatever. And it goes for good or bad, like what can I learn from this experience and what is the opportunity? And I think that can go a long way in being a leader.
Really, that's really good advice for people as well, Audrey. I know, some of your skills, like having the courage to do the things you do, the courage to leave the government and go to this new role is really something people can learn from. Because I think a lot of times people doubt themselves and, I'm not prepared to do that. I can't do that because I don't maybe meet every single qualification that they've listed. And so they don't go for an opportunity. And it seems as though you're willing to, take on whatever that next challenge is, and you're going to figure it out by surrounding yourself with the right people and listening to others and learning from them. And that's all really good
stuff. two things I'll add to that. Number one thing I've learned about this industry, people truly want to help you. Like if you get to a point, and I even had to kind of learn this myself. There were times, I'm kind of stuck in my own little spin, trying to solve a problem myself or work something out myself. And I always find that when I go to other people and start talking to other people, they'll want to help. And a lot of times it'll help me get to that next level to get the problem solved or whatever. I mean, even right now, I'm in a little bit of a spin on, that Amy Miller has left the Asphalt Pavement Alliance. So we're looking at the next iteration, the future of the Asphalt Pavement Alliance. And I kind of just have to keep telling myself, like, Audrey, you do not have to figure this out all by yourself. Obviously this is something we take very seriously, but get help, get input. And then the other thing I would add, and this lesson kind of came from the government, which is interesting because a lot of people think of the government as this big bureaucracy and slow moving, and which it is, it can be. But whenever you're applying for a government position, for the federal government, the advice that they'll give you, like, so you have to go to this whole USA Jobs website, and you have to do these multiple choice questions as well as essay questions when you kind of get up to the like GS 11 and above levels. And what I learned is you kind of have to overestimate yourself a little bit, like they'll ask you all these multiple choice questions, and if you don't check every one, like if there's anything you've done in your career that's remotely close to the statement, check it. Because the problem is the computers, the things that weed out the resumes, they're going to weed you out. So you have to overestimate yourself to a certain point just to stay in the system, to get to that level of having an interview, with a manager. And so anyways, I guess it kind of just taught me to kind of take that to life. Like, obviously don't way overestimate yourself, but give yourself some credit, like, okay, I know I can do this, or I've done something similar. So yeah. And again, going back to, I think people are always going to help you along the way. So yeah.
I would agree. I like that. Don't lie, but stretch.
Exactly. Yeah, the government also taught me to, beg forgiveness later, because of that bureaucracy. It's like, if you want to get anything done, just, sometimes you just have to do it and beg for forgiveness. So yeah.
I like that you mentioned too that people will solve things differently than you might solve something, but in the end, the problem will get fixed or solved or resolved. And I think when we start bringing in more diverse groups, this is where we get to more diverse ideas, and we'll do better when we do that. And our industry, I think, has been, pretty, well, we all know it's not been very diverse, and there's a lot of people who think the same way and have thought the same way for a long time. So having new and other diverse perspectives, I think, is really important for the asphalt industry. I like that you mentioned that. Okay, so how about the next question being, how have you seen your leadership style positively influence the workplace dynamics at NAPA?
Yeah.
And no knocks on Mike Acott or anything that he did, but you have a different look.
Yeah, and no, of course. In fact, I got to actually, again, give some kudos to Mike Acott. And you're hearing me mention his name, but he was truly a great mentor to me. So when I came to NAPA in 2012, there was some tension among some of the leadership staff at NAPA, and I was even warned of it. And I think I decided to approach it, instead of getting caught up in it, I just decided to approach it as, okay, I got to work with everybody. So I'm going to do my best to get along with everyone and stay above that. And I think after a while, Mike saw that I could maybe even help with that. And so he kind of tasked me with it. He was like, okay, like, I would like you to help build trust within this organization. And so I started going to lunch with the people who had problems with each other and kind of giving them a different perspective. Whenever they would complain about that person, I would kind of say, well, kind of picture this, or what, or think about what their perspective could be. And so anyways, all of that to say is that I do feel that I had a hand, a partial hand in helping build the culture here and helping get NAPA to a place where I think our employees value each other's, difference of opinions. I think one of the easiest things I kept reiterating is when you do have a problem with a person, please go to that person first. Please don't talk about them to everyone in the office and complain or harbor it. Please just go talk to them. And there's been a couple times that's paid off. I mean, I've had employees show up in my office saying, I can't work with this person anymore. And it's like, and I try to just keep it simple. Like, hey, have you even talked to the person? Do they even know that you're upset? And again, 9 times out of 10, they'll come back in my office after talking to the person and they're like, oh, everything's great. Everything's fine. And so anyways, and then I think the other things, so I guess when I came into the CEO role, I had, the culture was important to me. You see what I'm saying? So I was able to spend time on that and enjoy spending time continuing to build that among the staff. And then also, I think too, is reassuring people that if something does go wrong or we do fail, that we're all on the same team. As long as I know that your heart's in the right place, and you're not intentionally, messing around, you're not going to fail alone. We're all on the same team. We're in this together. And so just an example of that is, this is years ago. So these people are no longer in the organization. But, for some reason, they put the meetings person under me for a little bit, just kind of help with some management. And that meetings person was worried that if one of our technical conferences didn't, get the attendance or didn't make money, that they were going to be fired. And so I sat them down in my office and I told them, look, we're in this together. If this conference doesn't work well, it's all of us. It's not going to be pegged to you. And what that helped was that helped take the stress off of her. So instead of her spending her time worried about her job for the next 6 months planning this conference, instead, she was able to focus on the conference and ensure that it was a success and it went well. And so it's just taking that stress off of her and letting her, reaffirming that we're in this together, was really helpful. And so I think just maintaining that teamwork environment, that we're all in this together and we're not going to place blame or anything, and also in the same token, when someone is possibly taking advantage of the situation or someone is toxic and you've exhausted all options, you've got to make a decision. You've got to respect that culture and know how important it is to the future of the organization, that you don't let that bad seed continue to fester and fester and fester. And I shouldn't say bad seed, but maybe not the right fit, not the right fit at that time. So
that's a good way to put it. And culture is important right now, especially, at a time when we're all trying to find good employees and keep, retain those good employees once we get them. If you don't have a positive culture, it's hard to keep people there. They don't need to stay.
And I'll tell you too, because this is a struggle I'm having, and obviously I would love to hear from anyone who has something to add to this or that could help me. Something that I'm really struggling with NAPA is we are a small organization. We have about 23 staff members right now. We are in growth mode, thankfully. We're hoping over the next 5 years that we'll be able to get upwards of 27 employees. But the struggle I have is once the employees reach the director level or the VP level, there's not much, there's only one CEO, right? So, and I'm not saying these people want to be CEO, but there is limited opportunities once you reach director and VP for growth. So how do I continue to provide growth opportunities for folks and continue to keep them engaged? And on one hand, I feel that it's a success. If we build this person in their career and they're able to go to a new opportunity for them that helps them, I'm fine with that. But at the same time, we have had several employees tell me, I really wanted to stay at NAPA. I just didn't see the growth opportunity, or I wasn't sure what my future was. And so that's something that I've really taken to heart, and would love to have any insight on that and feedback. And it's something that we're going to be working on over the next year or two at NAPA as to how we can create growth opportunities or look at other ways for people to be recognized. And we've already implemented some. We've had a lot more professional development opportunities, as well as team building this year. That's something that NAPA had really not done in the past. So we offered executive coaching and things like that. But still, in your career, you want to know that there's, opportunities to move up. So how do I accommodate that in a small organization is a challenge right now.
Okay, well, I have no answer for you on that, Audrey. So we'll leave that up to the group to maybe comment and give you some good advice there, or catch up with you after.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I could see that where that's an issue, and it's probably an issue in a lot of smaller organizations.
Yes.
Where you have limited opportunities at the top, and what do you do?
Exactly. Yeah.
One thing too that, I'm thinking of as you were talking about your internal people and the culture there, and we always talk a lot about our customers. I think in any organization, you're very concerned with your customers, and we forget that our internal people are also customers really of each other. So whether you're in the accounting function or the sales function, you're all working, you have to work together, and you have to treat each other as if you're your customers. And then, not just think, oh, I need to be nice to the people on the outside. I really need to be nice to everybody.
Exactly. And that actually is huge. And so that's something that we stress, is that your colleagues are just as important customers as our members, and how you treat each other and serve each other is important as well. So yes, that is a very good point. So
we better move on, because I knew we'd fill up this time quickly.
Yeah, there's been a couple of questions in the chat. So whenever, Sheila, I don't know if you want to look at those, or if you want me to just.
No, don't you look at those.
Okay.
I was hoping our PNA could be scanning those while I'm asking you these. Our PNA, if you could take a look at that, just shoot me a note of ones that you think I should ask Audrey, because the comments are flying in here.
Yeah, they are. It's great.
There's a lot of really good comments. For those of you who aren't seeing the chat, you might want to put it on your screen so you can watch, because a lot of them are just comments, but they're very good.
Exactly. Yes.
Let's get to this one.
I'll send them over to you.
What?
I'll send them over to you. No problem, Sheila.
Thank you. So Audrey, you talked about Mike being a mentor to you. Did you have any other mentors or support networks that helped you or played a crucial role in your growth?
Yeah, definitely. So definitely Mike was one of them, in terms of helping grow me to be a CEO, and how to communicate at the board level with fellow owners and presidents of company. But I think also first of all, I really have to give credit to my parents. They were wonderful mentors to me. My mom, I think the fact that, one of the things I guess that people point out about me is that not only do I have the technical skill set, but I also am I have the people skills, I guess. And so I kind of credit that. My mom had the people skills, she's wonderful at that. She's a great communicator, organizer. And then my dad was an electrical engineer and super smart. So anyways, my parents were just wonderful mentors to me and in guiding me in life. And then what I would say is, really at Federal Highway Administration, I had some great mentors in Tom Harmon, who helped me really kind of identify how to set goals at the national level, like in terms of, okay, let's go out and change the specifications of 10 states to allow more RAP, and achieving that goal. And he also just helped me with simple things like, telling me when I was younger, like, you say a lot in your presentations, or you say okay every time you change a slide. And so helping me be aware of how I presented, was very helpful, because that's what I do a lot now. And I'm still having to learn from that. In fact, just recently, one of our employees at NAPA gave me some great advice when I was talking off the cuff at an event. And I take that to heart and appreciate it. And then I guess who I'd really want to mention, two things. Number one is John Bukowski, who, if anyone knew him with FHWA, he's no longer with us. He passed away in 2019. But when you go back to when I was coming to NAPA from FHWA, I mean, he mentored me in all kinds of ways, but the most significant was he's the one that helped me know my value and pretty much told me, like, you really shouldn't go there for less than this amount. And also, this is a really good opportunity for you, Audrey, and he probably saw my potential all the way back then, even when I didn't see it. He probably saw the potential for me to come into this role, although he didn't voice that. And I ended up getting, that minimum. And I think he was even shocked when I went back to him and I was like, I got it. He was like, so anyways, just him helping me know my value and encouraging me. And then I want to mention they're more friends, but they're also mentors. And I look up to them as we have a little group called the Asphalt Sisters, and it's me and Amy Epps Martin at Texas A&M, Joe Daniel at the University of New Hampshire, and Leslie Myers McCarthy, who used to be with FHWA, Leslie Myers, and she's now with, she's back with FHWA now. And just seeing their success in the industry, and each of them have a family and are raising children and facing challenges in life, and seeing how they navigate it has been really inspirational for me. So I'm just grateful to have them, and of course folks like Sheila as well. I've had the opportunity to get to know Sheila's family now. I'm sorry, I'm looking over at the screen to see Sheila now. I've had the opportunity to get to know Sheila's family and her children. And so I guess the point I'm making is, for a while I was really like, wow, I'm kind of lacking in female mentor, like most of my mentors have been male. But now that I think about it, whereas I consider them friends, I'm like, there's still a mentorship component to it. It may just not be formal or anything. So
Yeah.
For those.
So how would you encourage women to find this support network, Audrey? I love that Asphalt Sisters. I think that's great. Maybe
Yeah.
we all need a group of Asphalt Sisters.
Exactly, we do. So I guess what I would say is, for me, probably the biggest thing was probably two things. Number one, realizing it does not have to be formal. Like, you don't have to go to someone and say, Sheila, will you be my mentor? Just let it happen naturally. Okay. As you go through life and you meet people and you get to know them, and you kind of realize, hey, this person cares, and this person has good advice, or this person is willing to tell me how it is. Like, hey, Audrey, you say okay too much, or or you have bad breath, or whatever advice, so take advantage of those people. And I don't mean take advantage in a bad way, but just realize, oh my God, this person is helping me. So just realizing that when people are helping you, they are mentoring you to an extent, and then nurture that. So for example, with John Bukowski, for a long time, John Bukowski was very intimidating to me, because at one point he was my second level boss. So it was very intimidating, but I just took every opportunity to kind of get to know him. Like, if we were at a conference or something and he was going to go to dinner, like a small group go to dinner, I'm like, okay, I'll go, And so eventually I got to know his family, and we ended up talking every week. So I would call him and just chit chat with him. And so anyways, I guess what I'm trying to say is, sometimes just let it happen naturally and organically. And when you see that someone cares and is offering you advice, nurture that. And then the other thing I would say is, don't be scared to approach people. So for example, another time there was, this was back when I was a graduate student. I was attending some kind of international workshop. There was a professor and his grad students there. This is Dr. Tom Scarpus from the Netherlands, from TU Delft. Again, very intimidated. These people are putting on the workshop. They're from the Netherlands. I've never met them. They talk different, but I just went right up to his grad student and was like, hey, do you want to have lunch? I'd love to get to know you. We're both in asphalt research. And her professor, Tom, came over and was like, can I come? And that kind of started a whole new open door for us to collaborate, and helped me, achieve getting my doctorate degree. So anyways, don't be scared to go up to people and just approach them as getting to know them, rather than, do you want to be my mentor? Because there you're asking them for something. Instead, approach them as getting to know them.
Audrey, we only have 2 minutes left, so I'm just going to grab one of these questions and ask you. I think it's a softball because it's something that you're living right now with Women of Asphalt. But how can we encourage more women to join this industry, either in technical or professional roles?
Yeah, that's a good question. So
Yeah, there's no easy answer, but it's something I know that
Exactly.
you're involved in.
Right. So I think, you know, I think what I would say is, and it's hard to almost put it into words, but it's a good industry. Like, I feel grateful all the time that I'm in this industry. And even though there's times that it's hard and there's times that I'm like, oh, I'm working too hard, or, at the end of the day, when I really think about the whole picture, it's good people. It really is. I love the people. And so I think it's one of those things where if you give it a chance, a true chance, and you apply yourself, it can just be a great opportunity. And now, obviously, if something's not going well or not going right, you may have to shift gears, and those things happen, but there will always be people there that are willing to help you navigate that, I think. And so, and it's just what I hear other people say too, is that once they get inside on this industry, they realize just how wonderful the people are. And I'm trying to think what else. I guess the other thing I would say is putting things in perspective and knowing that by being part of this industry, you are working on something that's bigger than yourself. Every day in this industry, we're either, helping or thinking or creating something that is going to help make people's lives better, whether it's getting them from point A to point B safely. When they want to see their family, they want to go to the grocery, they need to go to the hospital, or whether it's getting something to their door that they need through trucking and delivery. We are truly, people do not realize how important roads are to our country and the quality of life we enjoy. And I know things can be difficult right now. There's politically and all of that, but at the same time, we're still very blessed where we live and the privileges and conveniences we have, and that is thanks to our industry. And so remembering that what we're doing is bigger than ourselves at times is helpful for me. So
appreciate that, Audrey. And I think, the more we talk about it, the more awareness we bring to the industry, the more awareness we bring to women about the opportunities there are for them in this industry, the better for all. And we're 1 minute over. I just want to thank you, Audrey. Your openness with sharing your journey and all of us seeing the success that you've had are just inspiring. And that's why I think we had so many people on this call today. I see one of your Asphalt Sisters is on the call with a thumbs up.
Oh, so great. Yeah, I hope, Arpina, will we be able to see the comments? Because I would love to be able to see them once will we have a record, I guess is what I'm asking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So,
I know we had some men here supporting you, Audrey, as well.
I see NAPA's chair, Christian. Yep. And Sheila's colleague. That's fantastic that he's on. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. And please know, everyone, that I'm here. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. And if there's anything I can ever do to help you in this industry, I would love to have that opportunity as well. So yeah, thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Audrey.
Bye.